Previously on The Devil on G-string.
なんていうのかな。自然に私はいい子ですみたいな感じじゃないの。家族のためなら何でもやりますみたいな感じじゃなくて、あれ？何言ってるんだろうね。
Panicking, she pulled out her diary from somewhere. No, there's no need for the diary. That just means you're a human being, Tsubaki.
そう、ヒューマンです。だからお腹もすくよ。
Animals get hungry too, Tsubaki. I'll try my damnedest to convince your family that they should leave their home behind. Surely this will be my best chance. Still, I can't seem to find my resolve. I'm hesitant to destroy a happy family like this.
お姉ちゃん、おしっこ。
Then go pee, son. If you don't have money, you have to submit to others when you shouldn't have to. You'll be suspected even though you didn't do anything. You'll become the subject of pity without even noticing. The two greatest gifts poor, weak people could be bestowed with are the endurance of livestock and the servility of a slave. If that wasn't the case, then why would Mom, a woman who had continually preached to me about not hurting the weak, allow herself to be tortured like that? In my dreams, I remembered that I still carried my father's immense debt, and I watched myself be crushed to death by the weight of the money. Well, this is awkward. Even though I've grown accustomed to hearing this insane voice of pure hysteria, it must have come as a shock to Tsubaki. Terrified, Tsubaki passed the phone back to me. In the end, even though Tsubaki says she wants the whole world to be happy, when it comes to a person like me, she has no idea what she should do. There's no way she could possibly understand. Pity is the one thing we do not want. The best cure for our pitiful hearts is the superiority one feels when one has money and power. Shouldn't I be telling her that?
ごめんね。京介くん、そんな悲しそうな顔しないで。なんて言っていいのかわからなくて。
Will you never forgive the kidnapper?
え?
Do you hate the kidnapper? Tsubaki went silent, and her eyes wandered away from me.
どうかな。正直、許せないっていうほどじゃないと思う。
You're too good of a person. In that case, it'd be better if the police weren't involved. If the police come, there'd be a whole horde of interrogations, and your family would be unstable again. And I don't think this guy is someone who would be caught so easily either.
うん。お父さんも特にそのことは何にも言わないし。
最近来ないと思って油断してたよ。連中はどうしてもこの家を出て行ってほしいらしい。
Is it that real estate company again?
いや、あれはどう見てもそっち系の人だね。腰は低かったけど、ただの営業マンにしては随分とごつい体をしてたよ。
That's because I handpicked a lot of them for their intimidation factor. What did they say?
うちのせいでみんなが迷惑してるって。工事が進まないってな。
幸せだな。夢みたいだな。
What is?
京介くんが私のそばにいてくれるなんて。
Yeah. I hope we can be together forever.
何があってもついていくよ。
No matter what happens, you say? Even if she learns what I'm really like. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of The Devil on G-String. So, the big question I have for Kyousuke here is, how much longer are you going to keep piling on pressure on Tsubaki and her family before you finally realize this isn't cool and just give the middle finger to dear old daddy and just say, fuck you, I'm not doing this shit anymore, it's wrong. I imagine it's gonna have to take something like Tsubaki breaking down tears in front of him, or something to that effect, in order for him to realize how wrong this all is. But it's gonna be a rather torturous little ride for me until then. So do me a favor, Kyousuke, and speed things along for both our sakes, and especially Tsubaki's sake. The temperature was still incredibly cold. The freezing wind was enough to make anyone shiver. Tsubaki and I agreed to meet outside the gate after school.
寒いね、お二人さん。
Well, it got below zero the second you showed up. Eiichi flew past us in a bad mood, appearing and disappearing as quick as the wind.
栄一くんって面白いよね。
Eiichi is a lot of things, but interesting isn't what I would use for him. I bet he doesn't find himself that interesting. You need to hit the kindergarten first, right? We picked up Hiroki and headed for her place, but...
変な人？なんかね、お姉ちゃんが来てくれるまで待ってたらね、じっと僕を見てる人がいてね。
More thugs, I assume, from, the Azai Corporation. Tsubaki must suspect the man to be a child abductor. She's clearly feeling uneasy.
どんな人だった？頭のツルツルな人だったよ。お兄ちゃんより全然大きい人だった。
Hiroki pointed at me and tried to illustrate how big he was by stretching his hands.
何か言われた？ずっと見てただけ。お姉ちゃんの声がしたらどっか行っちゃったよ。そっか。なら安心だね。安心なの？その人はね、きっとヒロアキを見守っててくれたんだよ。そうなの？
Tsubaki forced a smile and nodded.
ただね、その人に勝手についていったりしちゃダメだよ。はーい。それじゃ、お家に入って手洗ってうがいしてきなさい。
When Hiroki left, Tsubaki worriedly asked me,
京介くん、どう思う？
This must be another attempt to harass your family. Stalking family members is a common trick amongst those shady underworld types.
じゃあ、もし私が迎えに行かなかったら？
Use your imagination. Tsubaki's obviously a little stressed over this. Calm down. I don't think things have gotten to the point where they'd abduct him.
そうかな。心配だな。
Tsubaki bit her tightened lips as she watched Hiroki waddle into the house. Waddle, waddle, waddle. Alright, let's go to my place. She let loose a colorless response. What? You don't want to?
電話とかまたかかってこないかなって。夜もバイクがたくさん来ないかなって。そういう時にヒロアキたちのそばにいなくていいのかなって。
I know how you must feel right now. I gently put my hand on Tsubaki's shoulder. I want to tell you something, but given the situation, maybe I should wait for another time. I'm sorry. Why don't we talk tomorrow? I ran my fingers through her hair and turned around to leave.
待って。
Tsubaki grabbed my sleeve.
ごめんね。約束してたもんね。
No, it's fine. Family comes first.
京介くんも大事だよ。ごめんっていうのは、約束破りそうになってごめんっていう意味だよ。
So, are you coming or not?
行くよ。大切なお話、あるんでしょ？
Are you sure? I asked skeptically. Like I said, it can wait for tomorrow. Don't force yourself.
大丈夫だよ。お父さんもいるし、何かあったら携帯に電話かかってくると思うし。
Alright.
行こう。
I grabbed Tsubaki's hand and smiled. Despite the frigid winter wind, Tsubaki's hand filled me with warmth. It's so cold. Let's hurry inside. My raw senses began to relax as I crossed the threshold of my warm apartment.
お話って何かな？
Let me take your jacket first. Would you like some coffee?
ありがとう。
I stood in the kitchen, boiling some water. A pot of fresh coffee quickly finished brewing. Tsubaki looked at me as she sipped her coffee gently. Have you been writing in your diary recently?
書いてるよ。京介くんのことばっかりだけどね。
Did the incident yesterday make the cut?
ちょっと嫌な夜だったね。
She laughed to herself, and the mood darkened. I guess you write the whole truth down in your diary, whether you want to or not.
それはそうだね。そうしないと嘘日記になっちゃうからね。
I guess that's certainly one way to look at it. A lying diary. I chuckled as I brought the mug to my mouth. But, hypothetically, what if the very experiences you believed in were the lie? What would you do? Facing a question with obviously deeper significance than our previous banter, Tsubaki didn't know how to answer. Thus, she remained silent. In other words, if I had been lying to you, what would you do?
京介くんが嘘つきなわけがないよ。
Her expression was oblivious, like that of a child who thinks she's on the receiving end of a joke. But don't you remember? I hid something from you, did I not?
え？
I only just recently told you why I skipped classes so often, right?
それは隠し事であっても嘘じゃないでしょ？言いたくないことくらい誰にだってあると思うし。
Even you?
言いたくないことは、日記とか？
It seems my tone has finally made her a bit nervous. Her bright smile is all but gone now.
ひょっとして他にも何か言いたくないことあった？
I slowly nodded my head.
何かな？何でも言って。
It looks like she's ready for what I have to say. The truth is, Tsubaki, I need your help with a certain matter. I sighed and chuckled in self-ridicule. It's related to my job. We've run into a roadblock that we're struggling to overcome. If this continues, we could go bankrupt. Tsubaki's expression changed immediately. This assignment is part of a contract of a very large corporation in the city. If I fail to deliver, the company will be in dire straits indeed.
そうなの？
Yes. If worse comes to worse, my father and everyone in the company will be homeless. I continued while analyzing Tsubaki's body language. We're getting down to the wire, with the deadline so close. To be honest, we're in deep trouble.
それでどういったお仕事なのかな？私に何かできることある？何でもするよ。
I sufficiently worried her, as she blurted that out in one breath. What's the job? I paused for a second before continuing. It's related to the development of the Eastern District. Tsubaki looked puzzled. She obviously hasn't figured out the meaning behind those words.
東区ってうちのあたりだけど、ああいう工事とかのお仕事？
I shook my head. My job is to consolidate the land in the area.
整理って？
The farmland there is slated to become a recreational district, complete with resorts and other entertainment infrastructure. So in other words, we need to purchase all the real estate there.
うん。
Do you still not understand? Even now, Tsubaki doesn't betray my expectations. Her bewildered expression doesn't even bear a hint of distrust towards me.
どうしたの？私、京介くんがどんなことしててもいいよ。協力できることあったら何でもやるよ。
Come on, use your head. Find the meaning behind the words. Do you really mean that?
うん。
She nodded, her lips pursed tightly together. In that case, there is something you could do to help me. I kept observing her. I watched on as those trusting eyes rapidly became hollow. Will you move out of that house? Time must have frozen. She stared at me blankly. Soon, she kept stuttering, unable to put together a coherent phrase.
京介くんがうちの立ち退きを迫ってるっていう意味でいいのかな？
Force you? Indeed, that's what I'm saying. And this didn't start today or yesterday. In truth, you've been my target since before the kidnapping occurred. My mind is entirely numb right now. Only the most spectacular of stupors would allow my heart to suppress my love for Tsubaki and the sadistic delight I get from bullying the weak. Yesterday, I commanded someone to harass your family through disturbing phone calls. I also called up a local biker gang and sent intimidating men to your doorstep.
あれは全部京介くんの指図だったっていうことなの？
Correct. As long as you refuse to leave that house, the harassment will continue.
嘘だよ。そんな、なんで？
I assure you, this is the truth. If you insist you don't believe me, then I'll arrange for another phone call right this moment. I feel unusually calm for having just betrayed a young girl's trust. Tsubaki once said that my voice changes at times. I suddenly realized that this is one such moment.
やめてよ。そんな、やだよ。
It's not like I enjoy coercing people, you know. Except, literally just a second ago, you admitted that you get a sadistic delight in bullying the weak. Coercing people kind of involves bullying them into doing what you want. It hurts to be so cruel. Except when they're weak. And I really do love you. And your family, too. They calm my heart so much. Your home-cooked meals are delicious, and the evening conversation is so relaxing. In all my years, I've never realized that sleeping on the floor could be such a positive experience. Taking a bath with Hiroki has become an everyday occurrence.
じゃあ、なんで？
Tsubaki, her eyes filled with tears, would be crushed by my merciless reply. Money, Tsubaki. Money can give you, me, even your family, more happiness than we could ever need.
言ってる意味がわからないよ。
No, Tsubaki. It's me who doesn't understand you. Why won't you move out?
それは、だから、今までみんなで暮らしてきた大切な家だから。
I looked down at Tsubaki. You lot are causing headaches for a whole lot of people. Good! I pointed my finger at her. In any case, it was your uncle who lent your father that money. That's 50 million yen down the drain. Though I can't say for certain what kind of situation your uncle's in, that's no negligible sum, even to those of us who live quite comfortably. He may have had to go through a lot in order to manage that.
それは、そうだね。
If only you would submit to the developer's requests and sell the land. Not only could you repay that debt, but you'd even have extra to spare. No matter how precious that house is, or how beautiful your memories of it are, shouldn't you put the greater priority on paying off your debt? Of course, the uncle who loaned them the money obviously knew their situation when he made the decision. And for Tsubaki's dad, who owns a farm, moving also means losing his business. In other words, the reason why the lender gave him the money in the first place is so that Tsubaki's family could stay on this land. Selling off that land would defeat the purpose. Obviously, this relative does not want to see the Miwa family move. However, I mustn't allow this realization to reach Tsubaki. Don't you find it odd? All the families around you have already moved away. You're the only ones left. Everyone else found money to be more important than their homes. So why is your family so adamant about staying? If only you were willing to move, they'd be able to build hotels there. Plenty of people would pay to stay at these hotels. Everyone profits. And profit creates more happy families, like yours. After sighing deeply, I spoke again in a deep, sad voice. You have a wholesome family. You've never done anything wrong in your entire life. To be honest, I feel horrible for causing you so much suffering. My guilt triples as your boyfriend. I'm sure your heart bleeds. But even so, I beg you, moving out is the best option for everyone. My voice was warm and sweet, but I kept my head extremely calm. Tsubaki looked at me, then smiled listlessly.
お話は分かったよ。京介くんの言う通りだとも思う。うちのお父さんは私と同じでお金のやりくりに疎いところあるし、人はいいけど頑固なところあるし。
He's not right. As if she forgot what she had planned to say, Tsubaki took a deep breath.
ちょっと聞きたいのはね。ちょっとショックを受けてるのはね。どうして京介くん、怖い人を使って嫌がらせなんて京介くんがするようなことじゃないよ。
I was fully prepared for such admonition from Tsubaki. Because this is a necessary evil. I can't go into too much detail, but a lot of incidents in the past would have been settled a lot more smoothly if the Yakuza had been involved. Yet since the parties involved refused to resort to such methods, tragedies have occasionally occurred. Tenants have killed their landlords. Families have been turned out on the street. In general, people have gone through pain which they shouldn't have had to endure. Yakuza involvement in land disputes is hardly out of the ordinary. Gambling and prostitution rings see similar scenarios. When you need something done, but the law and morals of society limit your actions, it's natural to seek out someone who can settle the situation smoothly. It's just so unfortunate that this particular job just so happened to fall upon my shoulders. Tsubaki frowned.
でも、京介くんは優しくていい人なのに。
If he was such a kind-hearted person, he wouldn't have put you and your family through this up to this point. To say such things at this point.
それに、たとえ私が家を出ていくって言っても、お父さんが納得しなければ意味ないと思うよ。
I've already lived alongside your family for a while now. I know that the entire family revolves around you. If you sincerely ask him, your father won't resist for long. This I can guarantee.
でも、なんだか、それはお父さんに悪いよ。せっかくお金を借りてまでうちを守ってくれたのに。
It's unfair to all of you, let's be honest. Are you saying you feel like you're betraying your family? Tsubaki gave the biggest nod yet. It's time to make my closing arguments. But didn't you tell me you'd do anything I asked? Didn't you say you want to help me?
そうだけど。
I'll say this as many times as need be. I love you, even when you're obstinate like this. Sure, it gets annoying sometimes, but in the end it just makes me more and more interested in you. Heck, it's probably how I came to love you.
ありがとう。
Don't thank this dipshit! So I'll ask you once again, Tsubaki. I smiled broadly the last time I asked her this, but my expression this time was most certainly quite different. Here's a trite question for you. Tsubaki seemed to know what I was about to say. What's more important, me or your family? Neither of us knew when the snow began to fall outside, dancing slowly through the glow of my apartment's blindingly bright lights. Tsubaki did not speak. She kept her head down. Tears flooded her eyes. Say, Tsubaki. She finally raised her head upon hearing my voice. Am I a strange person? Well, you're certainly an asshole. I imagine I am. I couldn't blame anyone for despising me. Well, at least you acknowledge that. Yet, there's still one more thing I don't understand.
わからない？
A soft, wispy response trickled from her lips. If you don't have money, then you can't do anything no matter how people treat you. Tsubaki lightly shook her head. Courts, hospitals, schools, funerals, weddings, children. All these require money. The way I see it, people are helpless without money. Yeah, well, human civilization managed to get by just fine before capital became a thing. We had bartering. And just plain old hunting for minerals and supplies and meat. Yet when I say this, I'm always told that my beliefs are wrong. Inhuman, even. People tell me that money isn't everything. That this way of thinking is simply the arrogance of the rich. What do you think? Well, I think they're in the right. There was a moment of silence. Tsubaki's eyes opened wide in shock, before a sigh finally released her stilted tongue.
わからないよ、そういうのは。京介くんは 子供の時に大変な苦労を味わったからこそ、そういう風に考えるんでしょ？私が思うのはね、京介くん。
A faint smile and a pair of sad eyes faced me once more.
すごくもったいないなって。
A shame?
京介くんみたいな人がね、どうしてもっと人助けしないんだろうって。
Are you telling me to donate to charity? I'll be frank. I don't have any money to spare.
どうして？
I'll go ahead and use this opportunity to tell you this. I have a debt of my own. This debt is what ties me to my foster father's work in the underworld.
借金？京介くんみたいなお金持ちでも借金するの？
My real father left me with an insurmountable debt. If he couldn't pay it back, isn't it natural that I should do so? When she heard this, Tsubaki nodded sadly.
そっか、そういう事情もあったんだね。だから保育園の帰り、ひろあきの後をつけ回したりできるんだね。親のやったことは子供が補って当然と思ってるんでしょ？
Am I wrong?
わからないな、私には。ただ、京介くんがそういう人なんだっていうことが分かってきた。
After spouting such useless nonsense, Tsubaki slowly let her eyes settle on her feet.
ごめんね、京介くん。私、知らなかったんだね。彼女みたいな顔して、京介くんを家族の一員みたいな扱いしてたのにね。
I don't understand what's happening. Well, think harder, genius. Tsubaki's eyes, her expression, her gaze. They bore nor hint of hatred or disgust, nor even pity.
京介くんの苦しみも悲しみも何一つ知ろうともしないで、ただ優しくていい人だって決めつけてたんだね。京介くんを知ろうとする努力を怠って勝手にいい解釈をして自分だけ楽にしてたんだね。ごめんね。
Again, I no longer feel anything. That's enough. I mustered the words as cold as the bitter wind. Will you do as I say? You said you'd help me. Now you can do just that. Please, Tsubaki. Tsubaki looked out my massive windows. The snow continued to fall, and Tsubaki continued to stare aimlessly at it.
京介くんはいつからお母さんと二人で暮らすようになったの？
What? Why ask this now?
知りたいの。
Who knows? I was probably around 10.
寂しかった？
Perhaps.
お母さんは元気？
Well, remember that phone call you overheard? I'd imagine going by that. Not particularly. You know full well that she isn't.
京介くんはお母さんには優しいみたいだね。
That's none of your business. Little by little, like the snow falling outside, the nonsensical Q&A slowly came to a halt.
今のお父さんに連れられてどうだった？
I learned the importance of money.
叱ってくれた？優しくしてもらってる？
I don't think the word kind is in that man's dictionary. No.
そっか。
At that moment, as if to break the heavy atmosphere in the room, my cell phone rang. Without tearing my gaze from Tsubaki, I put the phone to my ear. Hello? What can I do for you, Miki-chan? Tsubaki looked taken aback at the sun-bright voice I used. Yeah, you're right. In that case, be sure to keep an eye on him. I'll contact his father very soon. Yeah. Obviously. That could be my trump card, you know. I understand. I'll pay well for it. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Our conversation ended, and I put the cell phone back into my pocket. Tsubaki seemed to be waiting for the right time.
返事は明日まで待ってもらえるかな。
Tomorrow.
京介くんの言いたいことは分かったから、ちょっと一日考えてみるよ。
Although I feel it'd be best to get a response now, I could not bring myself to refuse her request. I understand. Tomorrow night, then. I'll bring some people over, and your dad can sign the contract then and there. I maintained my heavy-handed approach. Tsubaki simply nodded meekly. In the worst-case scenario, I'll break up with you. Tsubaki could not hide her disappointment.
その時は私のことは気にしないで自由にしてね。
Don't shed any tears for this dipshit, man. He's not worth it.
京介くんにはほらミキちゃんって子もいるんでしょ。それじゃあね。
She grabbed her coat from the rack and hurried out the door. Only I remained, both hands covering my head, sitting silently on the sofa. Everything is out in the open now. My body felt tired from my wasted efforts. I have a debt of my own. I need this money. I can no longer turn back now. Yeah, it's me. I returned the call after she left. Sorry to bother you time after time, but there's something I need to know. As for our worst case scenario, that deputy commissioner's son. Right, he might be useful in the negotiations. Don't be an idiot, of course I'm prepared to die. I seem different. Does it really matter? You just don't see me when I'm like this, is all. It'll all be over tomorrow. For better or worse. I should go to bed now. I gripped the phone tightly and reaffirmed my stance to the person on the line. As long as it's for the sake of money, there's no information I won't hesitate to dig up. And the ends always justify the means, no matter how dirty they may be. You keep telling yourself that. I'll leave to you, Miki. Mikimoto. Hearing someone use his full name, my typically light-hearted liaison used a thick, deep voice to respond in a serious manner. Of course, I'll take care of it. To ensure an adequate preparation, I gave detailed instructions to Mikimoto. Winter nights are long, their darkness is deep, and they quickly seep into an unsteady heart. Gonzo summoned me to his estate early the next morning.
その女はきちんとしつけておいたんだろうな。
Oh, I broke her all right, but probably not in the way you're thinking. Maybe. After explaining how I manipulated Tsubaki in an attempt to force her family to move, Gonzo was still not convinced.
三輪椿は完全にお前の奴隷かと聞いているんだ。
She is, to a certain degree. However, Gonzo does not accept such ambiguous answers.
年間の行方不明者は9万人以上だそうだな。
You do anything to her. I'll find some way to make Kyousuke end you. Sorry?
それも警察に届け出があったもののみで、実際には数倍以上の行方不明者が出ているという。
What are you talking about?
お前、身内は？
He knows damn well about my relatives. My mother, or... My voice faltered.
俺くらいだな。
Right.
京介のことだ。もしお前に何かあったとき、気遣ってくれそうな友人はいないな。
Classmates like Eiichi and Usami come to mind, but I don't have a deep relationship with any of them.
あとは学園の教員などか。しかし、それもお前がヤクザの息子だと知れば、大騒ぎするようなことはないだろう。
What was he trying to say? A wrinkle appeared between my eyes as worry and fear overcame me. I asked Gonzo a question. What are you saying, father?
お前が日本を遠く離れた遠洋で足場の悪い戦場から海に落ちたとしても捜索願いなんか出ないという話をしている。
I'll make sure not to leave on a boat then. And yes, I know exactly what he means. I'm just being sassy. His smooth, deep smile was a perfect contrast to his icy cold gaze.
しめて300万くらいだ。
3 million?
網元への手数料と和解収の人件費。
In other words, that's what my life is worth.
高いだろ？そんな無駄金は俺だって払いたくない。
Gonzo seemed to be fed up with the fact that I've fallen in love with a woman. He's decided to just feed me to the fishes. I won't disappoint you. I swear. I lowered my head. I can't disobey this man. Oh, yes, you can. You just don't have the balls to do so. In the end, Tsubaki and I truly do live in two different worlds. I left Gonzo's house defeated. What's Devilman up to? That morning, I went to see Dr. Akimoto. Well, then again, I think I kind of already know the answer. He's just been sleeping. It's been so long since I've been here. As always, the room exudes the same feel of tranquility that blurs your sense of time.
険しい顔をしているね、京介くん。
Dr. Akimoto wore his ever-smiling expression as he handed me a cup of herbal tea.
当ててみよう。女性問題だろ
う。That's only the tip of the iceberg. Not too far off the mark, I guess. I flashed a bitter smile.
恋の悩みは僕じゃない誰かに相談した方がいいよ。
I don't plan on discussing it with anyone.
そうだろうね。君には親しい友人も、君を導いてくれるような家族もいないわけだからね。
You got some scathing quips today.
うん。いろいろ検討してみたんだがね。君は特に僕が助けてあげられるような病を患っていないという結論に至ったんだ。
In other words, there's no need for me to come. That could be a problem.
そう。時間の無駄だよ。 あいにく仮病患者に付き合わなければならないほどうちもお金に困ってるわけじゃないしね。
Is he playing some kind of mind game with him right now? In order to get him to talk? His porcine face swelled up.
まあお金さえ積んでもらえれば君の求める証明書を出してあげるつもりだがね。
You're a good businessman.
君のお父さんほどじゃないよ。
This guy is an acquaintance of Gonzo's after all.
ゴンゾーさんは相変わらずかい？
Yeah. Though he may kill me in the near future.
相変わらず君に愛情を注いではくれないんだろ？
I felt a chill when he mentioned love and could not respond.
病気かと思ったけど違ったんだ。君はね、よくいるかわいそうな子だよ。世の中に自分以外に信じられる人がいない寂しい子だ。
Is that really the diagnosis of the renowned Dr. Akimoto? Old ladies used to tell me the exact same thing all the time when I was growing up.
僕も随分と落ちたもんだな。
Oddly enough, Dr. Akimoto began to laugh heartily.
頭痛はもうないかい？
Now that you mention it, yeah, I haven't had one recently.
なるほど。よかったじゃないか。きっと付き合ってる彼女のおかげだよ。感謝しなさい。
This man truly can see through the hearts of his patients. I glared at him doubtfully as I pondered how eerie being in a room with him was.
大事にしなさい。君と付き合える女性なんてそうそういないんだからね。
Understatement of the century. Mind your own business. Goodbye, I said as I left. In the back of my mind, I felt I'd never see this man again. Right after the door closed, Dr. Akimoto shouted a joke at me.
彼女に泣きついてみたらどうだい？たまにはそのクールな仮面を取り払ってさ。殺されそうなんだろう？
I went home and prepared to go to Tsubaki's house of a few Sonoyama men. The project manager from a company affiliated with the Sano Corporation was going to tag along. The situation is now past the point of no return. We plan to get the contract on the spot. Tsubaki wouldn't betray me. Yet you'd have no problem betraying her. I mocked myself. My fingers shook out of nervousness. Gonzo will not permit another failure. I'll be signed on board a ship docked at Chiba or Shizuoka and accidentally fall into the sea. And then I'll die. This isn't the first time I received a death threat from Gonzo. Even so, if my life ended here, what would I have accomplished? There isn't a single true friend or a single family member who cares for me. My life has been marked with distrust and suspicion. I've read my fellow men like books, and then flashed fake smiles as I tallied up the benefits they earned me. The only thing I have to show for myself is money. Yet that is just paper to be taken by Gonzo. What's there to hesitate about at this point? I ground my teeth, lecturing the weak, stupid part of myself. Ever since I entered Gonzo's care, I could not expect any peace in life. Ever since I sold my soul to the devil of money, I could not rely on God's mercy. I've already done so many terrible things. I've held Tsubaki tightly in one arm and inflicted suffering on her family with the other. If I were to die here, it would simply be divine justice. Well, you're not wrong. Alright, I'll do it. I'll become rich and powerful. I'll become powerful enough that I never have to bow my head without reason ever again. My headache suddenly returned after its long absence. You know, I wonder. I'm trying to remember. Did his headache usually consistently flare up every time he had thoughts about trying to make himself all-powerful and or overcome his weaknesses no matter the cost? Because that is essentially Mao's motivation too, in a sense. Basically becoming strong in order to take vengeance on those who he feel harmed him, his father, and never be weak again. I'm going to be keeping an eye on when exactly his headaches flare up from now on, so I can confirm or disprove this. For some reason, Dr. Akimo's joke suddenly popped into my mind. I will submit myself to the devil. If I do that, I'll no longer have to feel anything. Time quietly passed. Soon we were ready to leave for Tsubaki's house. Hey, a snow effect. Snowflakes slowly danced to the ground.
浅井さん、今回こそは大丈夫なんでしょうね。
Several men were already waiting for me outside my apartment's lobby.
専務からお話は聞いてます。いい加減お願いしますよ。
This man, with his wide-set eyes, irritates me like a fly as he walks beside me. Apparently his name is Shibata, and he's from one of Sano Corporation's subsidiary companies. Don't worry. Today is the real deal. I took a look around and saw 3 young men sent by Gonzo. All 3 wore similar clothes. Dark gray, double-breasted suits. They may be green, but a lot of them have been through Gonzo's rigorous, expert training. They kept their mouths shut, quietly following me. With the Sano contractor's permission, I made the call on my cell phone. After several rings, I heard Tsubaki's voice. I'll be coming over now.
そう、
Let me speak a bit with your father.
お父さんは買い物に出てていないよ。
I started to get irritated.
大丈夫。私が話をするから。
Fine. Prepare the deed and all the other necessary documents. We'll do it ourselves. Tsubaki's voice shook upon hearing my dark tone, and she gulped. We'll be there soon. I signaled to the people behind me.
その必要はないよ。
What? A long shadow suddenly appeared beyond a nearby street corner. Just how long has she been waiting there? Tsubaki stood in front of the building. I glanced at the group behind me, and my mouth twitched in anxiety. Hey, Tsubaki.
こんにちは。もうしばらく会ってないような気がしてたよ。
It seems she hasn't gotten any sleep. She didn't look so good. Why aren't you at school?
早退させてもらったの。また悪いことをしちゃった。
I originally planned on meeting you at the house.
それはちょっと困ると思ったから。
A problem, you say?
困るよ。
She immediately followed up.
今、弟たちがいるの。
The side of Tsubaki's face disturbed the expressions of the goons behind me. In other words, she's saying she came here personally in order to shield the kids from these people. Hey, Tsubaki, you understand, don't you? I glanced behind me. This is no longer just about me. There are other people present. You follow? I have no other choice now. I pushed toward her. Feeling scared, Tsubaki retreated a step. You may think I'm repeating myself, but didn't you say you'd help me? How long do you plan to keep me waiting? I scared her with a threatening tone. Tsubaki lowered her head, both her shoulders shaking. Hey, answer me. At that moment, a faint sneering laugh came from behind me.
まあまあ、浅井さん。可愛い女の子じゃないですか。そんな脅さなくても。
Giving cute little girls and innocent children a taste of fear is what you hire brutes like us for, isn't it? I gave him a cold stare, and he quickly quieted down. Tsubaki. I heard a weak response. These three guys behind me, they're real Yakuza. They work under one of the most infamous, cold-blooded sons of bitches in the underworld. Azai Gonzo. She's finally connecting the dots. So, can you still trust me? Can you still call me a kind-hearted person? You should understand by now. You hate me, fear me, right?
怖いよ。
She let out some incoherent words. Hearing her choking back her tears, the tension slowly sank out of my shoulders. I understand. You let your dad leave so he won't be bothered with this. You were kind, and you made the right decision. Now, do you want your brothers and sisters to see the same things you have?
やだよ。もう。
I'm sorry, Tsubaki. Since things have come to this, I don't think we can see each other anymore. Just treat your days of me like a nightmare.
悪い夢？
Yes. And it's time to wake up. Tsubaki's feet made some grinding sound to the pebbles on the street. I looked down at the sound, only to miss the moment she raised her head.
目を覚ますのは京介くんの方だよ。
Her stream of tears disappeared upon meeting the sun's blinding light.
京介くんは悪い人じゃないよ。
I felt a little awkward at Tsubaki's sudden, practically violent outburst. Hey, don't make so much noise. In the midst of this quiet residential neighborhood, this scene can only be interpreted as a bunch of guys ganging up on a girl. The awkward feeling from Tsubaki's attitude was only compounded by the gaze of my neighbors.
だって楽しそうだったよ。
What?
京介くん、うちに来たいって言ってたよ。
That was just a lie to investigate your property.
嘘じゃないよ。楽しそうだったよ。ひろあきとお風呂入ってたよ。子供に嘘は通じないんだよ。
Even as tears kept flowing down her cheeks, Tsubaki's feet stood firmly in place, as if to block our path.
坊ちゃん、これどういう？
The guy behind me asked impatiently. I cleared my throat. Make way, Tsubaki. Move!
だよ一緒に帰るんだよ
Go home?
うちに帰ろうみんなで一緒に仲良くご飯食べよう
お嬢ちゃん、あんまり騒がないでもらえるかな。
A large man walked up next to me.
坊ちゃんから俺らがどういう筋のもんか聞いてるんだろ。こっちもメンツってもんがある以上引き下がれねえんだよ。
When faced with such a violent person, even from afar, one can tell that she's shaking.
嫌です怖いけど今までこの世にあなたみたいな人がいるなんて知らなかったけどあなた方はこれからひどいことをするんでしょ私の家族をいじめるんでしょ
The darkly dressed men, facing a girl who could barely hold her ground as is, made a nasty, threatening look.
来ないでうちに
あんたがそうやって騒いでも無駄なんだよ。
それでも私お姉ちゃんなんですみんなのお姉ちゃんだからどんなことがあっても家族が大事なんです
To be honest, it was hard for me to keep my resolve, seeing Tsubaki put forth all for the sake of her all for the sake of her family. But the devil tempts me. This is betrayal. Doesn't feel good, does it? Being on the receiving end of what you did to someone else? She kept saying that she wanted to help me, but in the end, she only helped me to descend further along the path of ruin. Like you weren't leading her and her family to ruin. I'll make her step aside, even if I have to resort to violence. You do that, you are irredeemable as far as I'm concerned.
京介くん帰ろう一緒に暮らそう
Gonzo's dogs are at the edge of their patience.
お金は全然ないけど古いお家だけどみんながいるよ
Even I'm feeling irritated at myself.
京介くんを家族って思ってる人がいっぱいいるんだよ
Those innocent eyes, filled with tears, deeply wounded my heart. As if she were pulling a bow across a violin's G-string, her sad, choking voice resonated in my heart.
京介くん一緒に帰ろう
Shut up. My ear, my head, everything hurt. Have it your way. Just get out of my sight.
坊ちゃん、いいんですか？
As I tried to calm my violent urges, I nodded to them.
わかりました。組長には坊ちゃんの命令で引き上げたと報告させてもらいます。
Sure.
ちょっと困りますよ、浅井さん。話が違う。
We're pulling out of here for now.
そんな小娘に泣きつかれたくらいで。
As my whole body quivered, I slowly closed my eyes.
わかりました。そういうお考えなら、こちらも勝手にやらせてもらいます。
With those scathing words, the last of my entourage left. In their minds, my decision must have made no sense whatsoever. Soon, rumors will begin to spread that the Azai family's kid is hopelessly in love with a girl and has lost his backbone. Still, for some reason, I just can't shut off my feelings. I've been so successful so far at turning off all my emotions, using any means necessary to accomplish the task at hand. But now...
京介くん
Don't look at me! None of those flawless, pure eyes that put me my wit's end. I slowly turned around and walked back to my home. I don't want to think about anything anymore. Nevertheless, I could hear Tsubaki's footsteps following closely behind me. Well, I thank you for not getting violent with her. So I guess there is still just the tiniest sliver of hope for you yet. Although I guess now we gotta worry about how dear old daddy's gonna take this news, don't we? Once inside my apartment, I glanced out the window absent-mindedly. Behind me, I heard Tsubaki taking off her jacket. I avoided her gaze and slowly brought my hands to the console of my stereo system. A smooth melody flowed from the furnished speakers, filling the entire room. I sat on the bed and stared at the floor. I could feel Tsubaki watching me, as if lovingly watching over me. Air on the G-string. My favorite piece.
京介くんの好きなバッハ?
He wrote the original. About 100 years after Bach's death, a violinist played the piece only using the G-string. It got a lot of attention.
G-sen?
The thickest violin string, with the lowest sound.
すごいね。
Indeed. Naturally, using the other strings as well would be a lot easier. In fact, the version you're hearing right now is of a million arrangements out there that uses various different instruments and strings.
どうしてそんな編曲をしたんだろうね。
Who knows? Maybe only a genius would understand such things. That violinist apparently tried to adapt other pieces into solo violin arrangements too. He must have had some kind of faith in his work.
信念。
He must have thought he knew what he was doing. I raised my head to look at Tsubaki. Unlike me. I sighed in self-derision.
京介くん、ごめんね。
Because you betrayed me?
役に立てなくて。
I fell down on my bed, absorbed by the music.
一晩寝ないで考えたんだけど、やっぱり京介くんには似合わないよ。
Isn't me? What? Being a Yakuza?
そうだよ。だって京介くんは優しいもん。
Wouldn't she see in me to decide such a thing? I have absolutely no idea. Enough about this. This is the end for me.
終わり?
My foster father isn't your average guy. It's probably better if you don't know anything about it, but he's pretty much the most terrifying person in the world.
だからそんなに苦しそうなの?
In that instant, I almost accepted her feelings.
京介くんは好きでしょ? 私の家族が。
When she simply looks at me, my heart feels calm.
うちにおいでよ。みんな歓迎するよ。
Such a carefree smile. They call this forcing kindness upon others. I got up and faced Tsubaki once again. Our gazes have met so many times before, but tonight I feel refreshed. You have it good, Tsubaki. You've no need to distrust others, since you believe everyone is as kind as you are. You never put money first. Tsubaki interrupted me with a kind smile.
私、楽してたんだって思い知ったよ。
Is that so?
でも私、バカだから騙されそうだな。
Indeed.
だから、そばにいて。
Sweet, melodious words echoed through my ears.
私じゃ、ダメかな。
I remember Dr. Akimoto's playful suggestion. How about crying in the arms of your girlfriend?
京介くん、うちにおいでよ。京介くんは疲れてるんだよ。今までずっと苦労ばかりしてて、いつもお金のことばかり考えさせられて、もう限界なんじゃないかな。騙すより騙される人生だよ。これ、いつも日記に書いてるんだけどね。
She laughed shyly. Tsubaki. I closed my eyes, metaphorically locking my heart safely away from Tsubaki's sincerity. If I could have... If only I could have met this girl earlier. I'm sorry. In reverence to the music, I whispered. Let's break up.
Huh?
Did you not hear me? Our relationship ends here. Tsubaki shook her head dumbfoundedly.
やだよ。なんで？
You and I exist in two different worlds. Even if we try to be together, I can't imagine it would work out.
そんな。
Get out of here. My cold words brought tears to Tsubaki's eyes.
どうしても？
I've already decided.
そうやってまた一人で寂しい気持ちになるの？
Well, it's not like I'm gonna be alone for long, considering I'm gonna be keeping some fishies company. Have you forgotten already? I was the one trying to drive you from your home.
でも。
Goodbye. I walked into the study to shake myself free of those clinging eyes.
京介くん！
I closed the study door behind me. My heart will no longer waver. Tsubaki's tears and screams will no longer cloud my judgment. Tsubaki continued to yell through the door.
うちに帰ろう。一緒に帰ろう。
Air on the G-string began again as my stereo repeated the track, and Tsubaki's screams blended with the music. After locking the door, I closed my eyes to escape it all. Pitiful sobs, desperate tears, scalded my ears.
ねえ、京介くん、私のこと嫌い？私、偽善者だから嫌いなのかな？苦しいんでしょ？大変なんでしょ？私に話してよ。
When I left the study, Tsubaki had gone. The cold winter chill wiped away any residual warmth from Tsubaki. So she finally went back. Tsubaki had stayed here until morning. She must have just stood here like a statue, crying endlessly. I felt as though all my strength had left me. I had no energy left for anything else. I mindlessly opened my vault. Stacks of bills welcomed me. An evildoer will be an evildoer no matter the situation. My heart quickly settled as I stood there before the money's smell and radiance. My cell phone suddenly rang. Probably Gonzo. Caller ID showed Tsubaki's name. Oh. I guess death is gonna give me a little extra time before it comes calling me itself. As I stare at the phone, an image of Tsubaki crying, cell phone in hand, appeared in my mind. Ignoring her plea, I rejected the call. I then proceeded to remove her number from my phone's memory and block her calls and text messages. This way, I'll cut my connection to her cleanly. I should quit school, too. I only went to school to relax in the first place. Of course, none of that is likely to matter now that I've disgraced both the Sano Corporation and the Sonoyama Group. I may be on that rental boat by tonight. Giving up on all my work, I simply sat in my room. My mind wandered to my childhood. I reminisced about the time I left Mom to follow Gonzo. What thoughts were blazing through my mind as I walked away from that miserable shack I called home. Outwardly, I spoke of repaying my father's debt. Perhaps the truth was I was just sick of being so goddamned poor. When I became money's slave, I seemed to have lost track of what's important to a normal person. The clock already read 12 midnight. I washed my face to prepare to go out. Just as I finished putting on my coat and reaching for the door, a seemingly perfectly timed guest arrived. I guess Death just felt like making a house call today. The uninvited guest walked in without even ringing the doorbell. The footfalls of many shoes echoed across the floor. Good evening. I was just about to visit you. Gonzo glared intently at me from the front of the formation.
Kyousuke,
Yes,
いい部屋だな。
thank you.
引っ越しの手伝いに来てやったぞ。
To hell, I presume?
無様だな。
A sharp gaze streamed from his eyes. Just do as you will. I slowly put my hands over my knees and sat down, my head slightly lowered. This is the position one takes when one surrenders in the mafia business. Everyone around me narrowed their eyes. Sorry for all the trouble I've caused everyone up to this point. You no longer have to worry about it. Gonzo let out a bestial growl. I'd also like you to know that I've broken off all relations with that woman. I hope to be of more use in the future. And if you see fit to give me the opportunity, I also hope to become part of your family someday. Many among them began to holler and shout. Until now, I performed to work as his son. I'd never been an official member of his organization. I just showed the willingness to become a true member of this violence. Some people seemed happy, while I'm sure others were preparing for a power struggle within the group.
Kyousuke, おい、
Yes,
本気か？
there's no other way. I felt extraordinarily desperate. Like a true slave to money, I have no need to think about anything else anymore. I just need to be a loyal follower. Of course.
そうか。
Gonzo was more expressionless than usual.
なら今、何をすればいいかわかるな。
He's testing me. What do you mean?
バカかてめえは。
Even before Gonzo finished, he had already grabbed me by the collar.
やり残している仕事があるだろうが。
Tsubaki's home.
火でもつけて全部ぶち壊してこい。
Gonzo's ghost-like eyes searched me for any trace of hesitation.
返事はどうした？
Arson. This way, I'll truly be forced into a life of crime. I'll have nowhere else to turn to but the family.
お前に拒否権はない。
Considering his personality, it's already a huge blessing to be alive right now. I can only harden my resolve. The only thing I have to show for myself is money anyway. I lived a worthless life, so I have nothing else to lose. I'll go right now.
よし、派手にやってこい。堀部と飯島もつける。俺も後から顔を出す。
I bowed my head low. I'm sorry, Tsubaki. I close my eyes and leave a quiet apology in my heart. I feel like I'm about to witness a rather unpleasant tragedy. During the day, this is a noisy, bustling park. At night, it's peaceful and quiet. Shadows of men who didn't belong to these surroundings reared their ugly heads here tonight. Gonzo's ruffians and henchmen.
家に火つけんのはガキの時以来です。
Even though it's the middle of winter, Ijima is still wearing nothing but an unbuttoned shirt. His stout nipples jiggle at times when he talks. I don't want to hear about this man's nips.
坊ちゃんもついに身内ですか。いやー、楽しみですわ。
The underboss, Horibi, laughed as his false teeth sparkled. Horibi is very cunning, just like a hyena. He'll do anything to the weak, but against an opponent of unknown strength, he becomes cautious. Very brutal, but easily controlled. That's probably why he works for Gonzo. Horibi and Ijima. While I often see these two, I've never met the other two guys. Despite the winter winds, they walked casually into the park.
じゃあま、さっさと終わらせちまいましょうや。
On the way over, I had stopped the car along Central Boulevard to get a piece of lumber from a dumpster.
京介さんもたまには鬱憤荒らしたいでしょ。
Ijima took a little stab at the lumber of his foot. Yeah, I've had up to here already. Having to deal with a bunch of livestock every day. I, of course, am one such piece of livestock. That makes 5 dumb animals total on the way to bully Tsubaki's family. I'm not sure how many times I've come to this place. The lights are always off early at Tsubaki's house. At this hour, Tsubaki's father, Tsubaki, Hiroki, they're all probably asleep. Their old house would easily crumble if an earthquake struck. I mindlessly stare at the scene. I stare, trying my best to suppress any sentimental feelings. My feelings for Tsubaki no longer matter.
坊ちゃんが手こずってるって言うからどんな屋敷かと思いましたが
こんなしけた家だったんですね。
犬小屋みてえじゃねえか。
The derisive laughter flew up into the cold, dark night. I held my board from the dumpster tightly and walked to the front lawn.
これ出てこんか。出てこんと火つけんぞ。
Ijima's forceful din failed to bring any response from inside. Is no one there?
いやいや、坊ちゃん、騙されちゃいけません。自分らは多重債務者の追い込みで、よくこういうシチュエーションに出くわしますから。
Horibi spoke happily, and his two sidekicks laughed with him.
ありましたね。よくゴキブリ駆除用のガス管を窓から投げ入れましたっけ。
Bugs. They laugh as they compare Tsubaki's family to cockroaches. I'll go see what's going on.
坊ちゃんが。
After all, it's a life sentence if they catch you actually killing someone.
パクられなきゃ大丈夫ですよ。
I swallowed my bitter smile at Ijima's casual remark. In their minds, it's not a crime if they don't get caught. Well, you're wrong.
まあ、坊ちゃんはまだこっちの世界に慣れてないっすからね。腰が引けるのも無理はないっすよ。
Well, I'm certainly not as pathetic as you assholes. Horibi mocked me for his know-it-all attitude.
じゃあ、自分らはちょっと待ってますわ。女と根性の別れでもしてきてくださいよ。
Derisive laughter filled the air again. These guys think I'm just a little runt whose only option is to rely on Gonzo. Since it's the truth, I don't feel offended. I laid the piece of wood down on the lawn and walked toward the front door. I rang the doorbell. No response. After ringing a few more times, there was still no response. Are they really not home? No. They might still be here. It's possible they're cowering in fear of the Yakuza and hiding inside. These men will probably break the glass, throw a can of gas inside, and light up the house. At that moment, I suddenly realized something. Tsubaki once told me how to get in through the back door. And this is how this knowledge comes back, huh? I can sneak in through the back. Tsubaki! My shout echoed through the house with no response. I went through all the bedrooms. No one was home. Every last one of the members of this noisy family had left the house. As I turned on the light and walked through the living room, I saw something familiar. It was laid clearly on the frequently used dining table. Tsubaki's diary. A question appeared in my mind. Why did she leave her diary, which she always carries around, here? For you to read, undoubtedly, you dumbass. Did something happen to her? I reached for the book. I clutched her rather heavy diary. There was no lock. I easily opened it. Strangely enough, I felt no guilt about looking through another person's personal musings. Although I can't say for sure, I seem to remember her giving me permission to read this. Welcome home, Kyousuke. What? It's nothing but a message from me. All the other pages have been taken out. However, I don't understand what she means. It must have shocked you to see no one home. The truth is, we're all staying at my grandma's house by the port. Dad said we wouldn't be safe at home come nighttime, because that's when the bad people come over. Supposedly, we won't be back for at least a week. They fled across town. It was definitely the correct decision. Since I can't reach you, the only thing I can do is leave this diary behind. Do you remember? I said you can read it if something happens to me. I guess that's a silly question. Still, no matter what happens, I know you'll come here, and when you do, you'll definitely read this diary. She believed that I would return here? I rejected her so strongly, yet she still believed in me? After all, Kyousuke, your family, right? Just as my head was beginning to split in pain, I read something even more incredible. Just a while ago, I talked to Dad about moving out of this house. My reason was, well, it was nothing special. I guess I wanted the compensation money. That's what you call it, right? In any case, it's always good to have more money. Of course, I also didn't like being pestered by scary people. After dating you, Kyousuke, I finally understood. Poverty is indeed a terrible thing. So I told Dad that money's more important than anything else. Money? Important? I muttered to myself and read on. Dad was really surprised. I rarely see him so angry. Mom and Hiroki reprimanded me too. But I'm not the good girl you thought I was. I mean, look at how mad I got at Haru-chan. And I hit my own brother. The truth is, I do want to wear beautiful clothes. I'd love to eat at high-class restaurants. I want to have fun like everyone else. So I want the money that they're offering. My allowance could go up if we sold the place. If you're tired of me like this, Kyousuke, then it can't be helped if we break up. No. I don't care what other people think. These can't be Tsubaki's true feelings. Tsubaki's just trying to help me. She sees that I have no way out, and in order to protect me, she gave up her home. Why? I ground my teeth. Why? Why do you want to save me? Why would you continue to love someone who used you and fed your family to monstrous beasts? And the Tsubaki in this diary makes no sense. The diary Tsubaki is just like those selfish, indifferent women you see every day along Central Boulevard. Why? 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 I continued my interrogation of the ether, desperately pleading for an answer. Mom and Dad still don't intend to move away, but I think they'll give in soon. Because, for some reason, I feel they'll go along with my selfish behavior. Surely a kind person wouldn't manipulate her parents like this. Anyway, don't worry about anything. My whole family trusts me. It was then that I realized it. Tsubaki had never told them the truth. She never told her family about my relationship with the Yakuza. She doesn't want to hurt the family who had trusted me. Furthermore, even more importantly, Tsubaki hadn't written a single word about trying to save me. She's only playing the role of a bad girl for my sake. How could someone ever call that hypocrisy? I was amazed at my blindness. No, stupidity for thinking that Tsubaki was a twisted hypocrite. I was the only twisted one here. My warped mind had caused me to create illusionary malice in those around me, to believe others held evil intentions which they never had. In the end, though, Tsubaki's still Tsubaki. Huh? She made up one of her pitiful lies to protect me. Maybe if you keep practicing, you'll be able to fool someone someday. I don't know. I don't think she needs to practice, considering she managed to fool you pretty fine. My trembling hands flipped through the diary until I reached the last page. I love you, Kyousuke. You may think I'm too persistent, but let's live together. Let's all live happily together. My whole family loves you so much. I'll be waiting. Everyone will all be waiting. Tsubaki. Period. I closed the diary and simply sat there on the floor. This was the living room where I often chatted with Tsubaki after a bath. I spent the night here many times. How many times have I bitched about the stupid, jovial atmosphere here in this room? I took out my cell phone and called my informant, Mikimoto. Hey, it's me. Yeah, you understand why I called at this hour, right? Take care of it.
Botcha! 遅かったですね。
Horibi and the other guys were still waiting outside.
待ちくたびれましたよ。
The cold wind brushed across my burning face. It was a pleasant feeling. I wonder what Mikimoto's supposed to take care of exactly. I mean, like... Here's a funny thought. Maybe Mikimoto is supposed to be an assassin that Kyousuke hired to kill Gonzo. Wouldn't that just be funny? That's exactly what Mikimoto is supposed to take care of, and it's only until this shit happened that he finally decided, you know what? I'm gonna end this man's whole career and his life. Better late than never, I guess. But I mean, that's assuming, of course, that this little idea of mine has any validity to it, which I don't think it does. But I'm sure we're gonna find out what this is soon enough, huh? The cold wind brushed across my burning face. It was a pleasant feeling.
で、誰もいなかったんですか?
No. Ruby licked his lips.
ボロ屋をほっぽり出して逃げ出したんですかね。なら、遠慮なくぶっ壊しちまいましょうか。
とりあえず窓を割りましょう。この季節には応えるでしょう。
With a sly smile, Ijima headed for the front door. I stared at Ijima's large head from behind. Stop. I picked up the board from the grass.
あ、なんか言いましたか?
Before he could turn around, I used all my strength to conk him square in the back of the head. Oh! Finally developed a moral conscience and spine to go with it, have you? About damn time. It felt as if I were hitting a piece of metal. After a brief moment, even my waist hurt. Wimp. A gong-like sound rang out. Ijima lay silently on the ground. The nasty smiles of the other men quickly soured. Horibi's face showed more confusion than surprise.
坊ちゃん。いやー、まずいですよ。
Well, I just did. In an instant, a strange gleam appeared in his eyes. The eyes of a sadist.
自分ら家族じゃなかったんすか? 兄弟の頭に角材ぶち込んどいて、まさか、ただで済むとは思ってませんよね。
Well, brothers like to roughhouse all the time, you know. That's all I'm doing. Just roughhousing. With a piece of wood. Of course, I don't expect forgiveness. People who use violence can't be seen as weak enough to lose any scuffle. As of this moment, I'm in a fight with the 10,000 plus member Sowa Alliance.
今のうちに謝ってくださいよ。坊ちゃんまだケツが青いですから、今ならむしゃくしゃしてやったってことで、半殺しで済ませますから。
Horibi and the other guys fanned out, surrounding me.
いやね。親父がなんで俺をよこしたのかわかりましたわ。
I also understand why, in this cold winter weather, Gonzo sent his right-hand man rather than a couple grunts.
今後は杯受けるんでしょう。自分は坊ちゃんの教育係ってことですわ。
Again, his mouth curved up.
はい、お前らちゃんと坊ちゃんをしつけるんだぜ。なあ飯島
I looked at the ground in surprise. Although I didn't place much faith in my upper body strength, I still hit him with the intent to kill. Yet Ijima casually, slowly, got up like a ghost. Blood dripped down from the back of his head, staining his white shirt.
いや、坊ちゃんね。坊ちゃんはたまに自分らを顎で使ってましたけどね。そんな中で心のどこかで自分らを甘く見てたんじゃないですか?
Well, a pawn by itself isn't exactly a very impressive chess piece. I'm sure you understand. Horibi is absolutely correct. I'm too naive. I didn't know there were people who could take a heavy blow to the head and still get up unfazed.
殺す
An unknown fear rose in my chest. I suddenly laughed. What the hell am I doing? These guys are professionals at violence. I spent all my time plotting in the shadows. How could I possibly win against them in a fight? Nevertheless, I just can't control my emotions. That's right, my boy. Just let all your emotions go.
そんなに女に入れ込んじまったんですかい?
He walked closer with a savage smile on his face.
自分らよりもこんな畜生親が大切なんですかい?
Nobody calls Tsubaki a shithole and lives to tell about it. Ain't that right, Kyousuke? Horibi questioned my reasoning behind this rebellion.
坊ちゃん、あんた、お父さんからあんなに恩を受けておいて、それを後で返したんですよ!
Well, there are all kinds of currency in the world. Don't be surprised if eventually you get rubles instead of gold. At this solitary sentence, the trembling fear in my mind stilled itself and went mute. Tsubaki learned enough from me. Maybe it's time I take a lesson from her. From the girl who tried to save me without saying a word. These hypocrites, with their babbling about repaying favors, at the very least. This has nothing to do with women, you fucking scumbags. Throwing out lies as transparent as Tsubaki's, I gripped a piece of lumber tightly. Go look in a mirror. Take a nice hard look at those ugly fucking mugs of yours! Tsubaki wandered aimlessly among the docks of the Western District. She wept inside. Kyousuke's refusal to come with her, or even to speak to her when he locked himself in his study, had pushed her to the brink. It was already 2 in the morning, but Tsubaki was far too worried to sleep. The salty ocean breeze whisked around her from the dark Pacific, brushing against Tsubaki's face. She thought back to the events of just a few hours ago.
おばあちゃんのお家?
Tsubaki's father, fearing the Yakuza, decided to hide for now. Her father won't change his mind once he decides upon a course of action. Tsubaki herself also wanted to shield her siblings from unnecessary worries, so she didn't speak up against the decision.
あのね、お父さん。
Tsubaki's father tilted his head.
だって、京介くんは家族でしょ？ふらりとここに帰ってくるかもしれないでしょ？
Seemingly aware of Tsubaki's feelings, her father nodded his head and said, "Indeed." He laughed. In that case, let's put some food in the fridge. Kyousuke was the cause behind her family's predicament, but Tsubaki would never tell her family this. After all, she didn't fully believe it herself. Hiroki threw tantrums about wanting to see Kyousuke every day. A boy whom her family accepted so thoroughly couldn't really be a bad person.
ごめん、お父さん。ちょっと話があるの。
After a pause, she faced her father.
うちをね。
Dropping his jaw in shock, Tsubaki's father quickly asked for a reason.
やっぱり無理なんだと思うよ。
What are you saying at this point? The whole family looked at Tsubaki dubiously.
ごめんね。お父さんが必死でお金を工面して守ってくれたうちだけど、やっぱりうちだけ出ていかないっていうのは無理なんじゃないかな。
Looking at each person's uncomfortable face, Tsubaki continued.
このお家から離れるのは残念だけど、ほら、お金たくさんもらえるんでしょ？お父さんがお仕事続けられるように、引っ越し先に新しい畑も用意してもらえるんでしょ？だったらいいんじゃないかな。
Tsubaki felt an ethereal pain deep within her chest. At the same time, she was shocked at how calmly she could speak such words of betrayal to her family. But with the thought in mind that Kyousuke was also part of her family, her words continued to flow smoothly.
変かな、私。もし地震とか火事とかあったらどうするのかな。このお家じゃ大変なことになるよ。ひろあきもさえも大きくなるよ。子供部屋が一つじゃ足りなくなるよ。
She said everything that she could think of. Tsubaki's father was at a loss for words. He looked at his daughter as if there was something wrong with her. Tsubaki hid behind the despicable mask she built during the kidnapping incident. She didn't care what happened to herself. Her only thoughts lingered with Kyousuke. Is Kyousuke alright? When she left Kyousuke, he looked stranded, like he had nowhere else to turn. Will he run into trouble because we won't move? Will his father do something to him?
帰ってきて、京介くん。
The exchange of blows quickly became a one-sided torture session. Well, you tried, and that's all that matters. Being beaten around like a rag doll by 4 men made me lose track of where they were even hitting me. My throat filled with the taste of my own blood. Each time I spat, more and more broken teeth flew from my lips. A pool of blood flooded my vision. I suppose that means I'm lying on the floor. What are these assholes talking about now? My mind is fuzzy, and I can't comprehend anything. I think they're laughing. And I seem to be desperately attempting to shout something. The words drifted unconsciously from my lungs to my lips. I wanted to speak up, to scream my words loudly, but only gargles and drool came out of my mouth. This only served to rile up the bastards even more with laughter. The attempt at speech was followed by sharp pain, pain strong enough to snap my foggy awareness into clarity. Water dripped down along my hair and face. Water? Icy cold water. My lips, my whole face froze.
家に土足で上がるな、だと?
When did he get here? Took the words right out of my mouth. Gonzo stood before me with several lackeys in tow. I realized I could move my own head and looked at Gonzo's face.
こんな畜生小屋に何の価値があるってんだ。おい、京介。お前は俺を裏切った。なぜ？
His expression was relaxed, but I could still feel the pressure radiating from his gaze. Why, you ask? I opened my blood-filled mouth. Do you really not understand? I even managed to laugh.
あの椿とかいう娘にいくらの値段がついてるんだ。今後、いくら引っ張るつもりだったんだ。
Don't be ridiculous.
わからんな。確かに風呂にでも沈めれば月に100は絞れそうな玉だが。
Shut up! I won't let you defile her! I concentrate all my energy into my legs. Biting my lip in the gaps between missing teeth, I stood up. This isn't about money! I do indeed love money, so I can't lecture you on the topic. But I'm no longer its slave. I'm not one of your livestock anymore. I'm just a normal person now. I want a warm, smiling family, and an evening meal with a woman I can trust. And hell, sometimes we common folk do crazy shit like this. Gonzo seemed to be more than perturbed. The cronies behind him looked eager to pounce. Their sharp eyes concentrated on me. So this is the end. You and I, we're through. If there's really human blood flowing through your veins, then try to understand. No, try to understand as my father! No matter what, Gonzo saved me from a life of poverty. I still owed him. A wrinkle appeared on my forehead. Thank you for taking care of me all these long years. I bowed down deeply. Not because I felt threatened by the situation, but because deep down in my heart, I respected and honored this man. Why? The atmosphere immediately changed. The threatening looks I got earlier toned down in an instant. Only after the tension dissipated did I raise my head again.
で、いつになったら火をつけるんだ?
Did everything I say go in one ear and out the other, you fucking blockhead? I'm at a loss for words. My eyes opened wide in shock.
お前は何か勘違いしているようだが、俺はお前のさえずりを聞きに来たわけではない。京介。
He used a dark voice. His body looked as if about to charge me.
俺はお前に教えたか?
My whole body froze. and not because of the water poured on me.
お前に人であれなどと教えたか？
He closed in step by step. He wore an expression that could scare the devil away. I don't know, the devil's got balls. A man standing near me let out a gasp and cleared the way in surprise.
てめえは結局仕事を放り出して女に逃げたんだろうが。
It sounds like good logic, at least in this situation.
お父さん、分かってくれ。血の通った人間なら分かってくれだと？分かってくれだのほざいた口はどの口だ！
At that deafening roar, I blacked out for a second. Gonzo truly is a bona fide villain. Despite seeing a kid covered in blood, pleading with every fiber of his being, Gonzo's heart didn't budge a damn inch. I really have to hand it to him. Indeed, I do. However...
Kyousuke! そこ動くな!
Gonzo, if you kill me, you're dead too! However, that's why I took some measures of my own. Under the inhuman pressure from Gonzo, I put all my energy into these words. The police will move in and arrest you! With those cold words, Gonzo showed an interrogative look. Sounds crazy, I know. Being the head of the Solo Alliance should make you immune. Your arrest would cause too many problems for them. Plus, you were once a detective, right? So you must have a lot of connections within the police department. I'm sure you've got plenty of things to blackmail them with. In regards to this gig tonight, I'm sure you already took care of the police. I continue to stare into the eyes of the beast. But, has the new Deputy Police Commissioner contacted you yet? With those words, Gonzo's atmosphere changed. He still retained his threatening look, but there was a calculating gleam in his eyes. They say his son was captured recently. Oh, sorry. By that I mean he's under light supervision.
なるほど。
Gonzo muttered. His expression changed into a more hospitable look.
その息子がとんでもない悪タレだという話は最近耳にした。
You should know. Apparently he's been having some fun at events hosted by that group. The Boys, was it? My informant did a small investigation.
すると
I'm sure you can guess. Supposedly the kid got hooked on some dangerous drugs.
それをネタに父親にゆすりをかけるわけだな。
Is that what all his phone calls to Miwa and Mikimoto were about? A very quick deduction. I'm sure right now Gonzo's rationally weighing his desire to kill me against the potential danger toward himself.
新任の警視副総監か。確かにてめえの息子がイカれてると世間に知られたら終わりだ。俺をあげるのも辞さないだろうし、政治屋に行って聞かせても止まらんだろうな。
His face, he seemed to have noticed something and studied me with his eyes.
札は
Surely there are way too many to name. I know quite a few. Mainly the use of violence to coerce people. Naturally, all the necessary evidence is locked in a safe place.
あるいはこの場でお前を殺してもいいんだよな。
He already knows the answer.
命がけだな、京介。え？
I will make this clear now. If I'm killed or captured here, my plan will take effect immediately.
だろうな。 しかし、お前も分かってないんじゃねえか?
I know what you're about to say. You'd likely be released immediately from prison. And then Tsubaki and I would both wish we were dead, right?
だが、少しの間でも腕を後ろに回された俺が、今のメンツと地位を保っていられるほど、極道は楽な家業じゃない。
My life or your life? Surely you know which one is worth more, am I right?
なかなか知恵を巡らしたようだが、もし俺がこのまま台湾あたりに逃げたらどうする?
I'm sure there'd be rumors. Azai Gonzo's son bashed in his subordinate's head, but Gonzo fled the country to escape the police.
まったくだ。
It's rare to see Gonzo with such a hearty smile. I grinned along with him.
いいぞ、京介。上出来だ。
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. A very smooth negotiation. So this really is the only way. Only through conflict, through knowing our respective threats and best interests, can we understand each other.
さすが浅井京介だ。
Unfortunately, this is the far-sum relationship between Gonzo and I.
望みは何だ? いえ、俺は今気分がいいぞ。
This house. Granted, I know it's going to be difficult for the Miwa family to continue living here regardless. But at the very least, you'll have to stay away from this matter.
おう。
Gonzo nodded without hesitation. In addition, I refuse to do any questionable work, let alone criminal activity. Gonzo thought for a bit.
お前には借金があることを忘れるなよ。
I haven't. I'll repay it in full, even if I work myself to death.
よし。ならば許す。
Of course, Gonzo isn't truly letting me off like this. I understand it'll take much more to break off this relationship. Even with all the problems, we're still father and son.
てめえら、引き上げるぞ。飯島も文句はねえな。
Before Gonzo, Ijima became meek as a cat. I watched as all of Gonzo's men jumped into a Mercedes and drove away. My body suddenly became numb. Neither my hands nor my feet could work properly, but I didn't have the energy to go to the hospital. After I left my body to gravity and crumpled to the ground, I took out my cell from my breast pocket. Hi, Miki-chan. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, it's finally over. Yeah, you can let that kid go. Tell him not to get into trouble again, or even scarier people will be after him. The money? Oh, right, your fee. Phew, that's pretty steep. My vision blurred. No, I got you covered. After a deep breath, I responded. I just got some spare change from Papa, after all. Well, I'm impressed, Kyousuke. You certainly came a lot more prepared than I expected you to. So, good on ya. It feels like I'm approaching an ending of some kind. But despite that, I think I'm going to go ahead and end things here. Because I'm sure there will be plenty, and I'm going to bet that there's going to be plenty of time in the next episode to see whatever ending it is that I'm about to see, if I'm right about this feeling of mine. Otherwise, if not, and it ends up occurring almost immediately after, then, well, I can always just start backtracking and seeing what else I can find after making some different decisions along the way. I'll find a way to fill out the content for the next episode somehow, like I always do. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of The Devil on G-String. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.